Thank you so much. Have you ever wondered what your answer would be if your grandchildren ask you, Dada, what were you doing in the fourth industrial revolution? Before we go into the topic about what is next in leadership, let us look into the future. But I'd like to introduce myself first. This is not me, but I'm a Malaysian. This is me with my wife and 2 children. The eldest is 7, the second is 2 years old. This is my second time in Pakistan. My first time I was here, the head of HR was trying to hook me up with a Pakistani wife. But I'm here the second time, not to look for another wife, but I hear that your halwa is still very good. Yeah. So, to understand the future, we got to look into the past. The first industrial revolution took human beings about 80 years. The second, 44 years, and the third is about 64 years. So basically, we took about 120 years to move from an agrarian society to a time when we have machines and cities. And if you look in the bigger picture and step back, it's amazing because 120 years versus 120,000 years of being a farming society, and about 2 million years of being a hunter-gatherer. It's a blip. And not only a blip, it displays how fast this change has happened to us in the last 200 years. So we are in a massive shift right now, and you and I are in the middle of it. What's your emotion? What keeps you awake at night? And to me, it's actually my 2 girls. How would they live in the future? How would their livelihood be? How do you future-proof your next generation? How do I future-proof my country, Malaysia, and maybe yours, Pakistan? And can we affect a bit more? So, it is true that humans will need to evolve. And what do we need to do? Right, the shift is going to be very significant to us. One is that we need to be able to connect between AI and the bigger human potential. That technology serves us and not the other way around. The second is to really look at where we can, with AI, augments human work, enable us to have better creativity, productivity, and innovation. So the change is so rapid that I remember what human needs to do is no longer it's just about physical being, it's also about virtual. Mustafa Sulaiman, the head of AI of Microsoft, said there's a new species called the new digital species. Right? So you can imagine a physical being and a digital copy talking to each other. Right? About 2 years ago, there are many research that says what are the things that technology will not take over and what we is teaching. Less than 30 days ago, Sam Altman of OpenAI said that you can have a personal tutor for your children right now. You just need to train your curriculum and other information to this AI, and then you get a personal tutor. Isn't that great? Isn't that exciting? I'm not sure. Skip this. So what does it mean for us as HR leaders here as we drive the change and transition in the organization and in the country? There are 3 things that I want to talk about. First is to humanize decision making. That it's just not about logical, but it's also about emotion. So right now I do a lot of marketing work. I'm no longer HR. And what we realize is as companies, if our actions are only logical, our competitor can figure us out and outcompete us. My ex-CEO came one day and said, you know what, I don't understand HR. Right? The input is not the same as output. Right? But I'm an engineer. I understand there's an input, there's a production, and there's output. But in HR, if I invest 2 million, I'm not sure what's the output I'm going to get. And that's basically it. Because marketing and HR has a common similarity, right? We actually work on behavior economics, where it's about context and emotion, and not just about logic. It is about science. HR is science, but the art is in getting that right. So, here's our craft, right? And to enable the human side in decision making. A few years ago, I was brought in to this asset, and they were suffering. In 2 years, we actually make them profitable. In another 2 years, it's about $200 million of profit per year. In the 4th year, we think we are doing fine, but we're looking at the asset. Where are the hot spots? Where is the leading indicator? And something came out, and it's about the issue of sexual harassment. We could have just ignored it, but we decided to nip it on the bud because it's a cancer of what we're trying to do. So we have this event, 120 top leaders we bring in, we give them direction for the next 6 months of what you need to do. And a week before the session, we have a very nice PowerPoint pack, a legal person, a doctor. It's a much logical persuasion. You can just imagine that. So we talked to one of the victims, and she agreed to be part of this session. So imagine this is her speaking to you, audience, the leaders of that organization. And she spoke about how she is, what actually happened, the perpetrator, her emotion, her frustration, the support that she get, the support that she didn't get, the feeling that she was disowned by the company, the effort that she need to do to recover her career, and the courage that she need to actually speak to the leaders that day. There was pain, silence. But you can sense anger. You can sense disappointment. You can also sense a will to act. And in the next 3 months, the whole organization went into action. From the tone to the top to the bottom, to the vendors that support us, the vendors that support them, and the vendor that supports them. All of them understand that sexual harassment is non-negotiable for Shell. So the example, my key learning is that the speed of action of leadership is connected to emotive and purpose than just logic alone. And that comes to the view of what is a purposeful leadership. It's about acting on the now, but connecting to the hearts and the mind. Which is a segue to the second component, right? It is about understanding what is your calling, what is your higher vision, right? It is about linking the person to the commitment to inspire them. And in many ways, all of us may have this purpose, and it is to understand. It starts with us, starting with understanding self, the clarity, and then before managing others. That's called emotional intelligence, right? I've been doing this for the last maybe 15 to 20 years in my role, and I've been pretty blessed that my professional and personal career has been quite aligned. So I was employed by Shell, not because I'm smartest, but because, and I get to work with a lot of smart people, but because I am an expert in 𝐍𝐞𝐿 𝐷𝐶 And then I moved into doing global and regional role, and then in doing leadership role for the country. But more or less, I felt that to transform a community or a village takes a lot more effort than transforming a company. So I want to share a bit about myself. My left hand is I work with communities at risk, mostly with indigenous communities that I don't speak that language, help them to be entrepreneur, especially in agriculture. And my right hand is to work with companies and CHROs to actually make their companies better through like executive hunts, coaching and things like that. And then the money goes here, and then we have enough money anytime we want to actually spend and give away to our courses. In the second year of operations, we also are working with people who are marginalized by companies, right? So these are the people who are marginalized by something called ageism. Some of you may know, as we get older, it's harder to get job, right? Those who actually prioritize career, taking care of people, their children or their parents, or a purpose, right? So these are the people that come alongside of us. It is a different working model, but we are testing out in a way that we want to put profit and people and planet at the same bar. So enough about myself. Let me do an activity with you. Is that all right? So that you can get to know the person beside you, right? So I want you to find a pair, right? In this table, it's quite easy. There's only two of you, right? Look at the person that you want to pair with right now. There you go. Very good. Okay. So introduce yourself a bit. All right? And then identify one of you as number one and number two. Number one doesn't mean better than number two, right? But one and two. Can you do that right now? I'm seeing a lot of actions. Very good. Okay. So here's the instruction. So number one and number two, maybe I'll ask you to stand first. Can you all please stand? Yeah. Okay, now we have a pair. Anybody doesn't have a pair, please raise up your hand. And the management will try to help you to pair up. Okay, don't look too closely to the eyes of the other person. All right, so number one and number two, have you know who is number one and who's number two? Yes, huh? Okay, so number one, okay, what you need to do is, okay, you face the other way and then make a change on yourself, right? Take out something or something like that, right? And then you move back and focus on the other person. Number two, we need to observe and identify what has changed. Is that all right? Okay, the first one who shout out the answer will get some prizes. Yeah. Okay, let's go now. Who has got the answer? Number one? Not the front, maybe behind. Raise your hand. Anybody out there? What happened? Take out the tie. Oh, take out the lanyard. Can we have the prizes, please? All right, very good. Now for round two. Round two is harder. Now, round two is for number two to turn the other way and make a subtle change. Make a subtle change means something very small, very hard to be seen by the other person. All right? You get it? Okay, 1, 2, go. All right, hand of applause. Please take a seat. Yes. Oh, yes, the gentleman there. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Please take a seat. Yes. So the third element is actually the leaders need to help others to understand and drive change, right? And from the activity just now, right? Change, what you see in the first time is a big action, right? And you see a reduction, something that's been taken away, and it's very observable. But in the second one, it is very subtle. It's very hard to see, right? I see some of you, in your second version, you actually smile. And that's it. That's the change, right? And change, basically, it can be effective if we enable them to know that it's not about a reduction. It's actually a shift. Something has changed, and it's not reducing what they have. So many years ago, we actually sent someone to go around the world, talk to the brightest people, to the best universities. And this person had 6 months. I wish I had that job. And came back and basically did what Peter Senge says. Right? People don't resist change anymore. They resist being changed. Right? So the context and shifting it for individuals are really important as we help people to understand what change would be. Daniel Pink, in his book, Drive, said 3 things, right? Mastery, autonomy, and purpose would drive the motivation for people to want to change. they need to feel that they are in control. And it needs to connect to their purpose, both private as well as professional. And if it's aligned, then they can embrace those change. Yeah, so I'd like to sort of round this up a bit, right? So we talk about individual leadership. What will be different next in terms of leaders as the AI changes our industry? But something practical for HR, because we need to look at the resourcing of the organization, right? How do we think about resourcing for the future so that the company is able to get the outcome that we want? And I'd like to share some examples from East Asia, and that's where I'm from. But first, the story. So in the midst of the pandemic, I was working for a pharmaceutical company that produces nitrile glove, and every day the operations would be asking, I need more people, we need more operators. And I said, hey, you know, I can get the people for you, but you have two conditions. One is you change the way you do your operations, and two is you invest in technology. And they did. The first thing they did is to have a bare bone manning process. And the second is what we call auto packing, which is like this big, but it takes away 4 people's job in doing handling of the glove. So I recognize Dave Ulrich saying this, HR has already have a seat on the table. So whatever I'm going to share after this is how you use your seat to drive the business. Okay, the first is buy. You are very familiar with that. It's about recruiting the best talent for your organization. There's actually nothing new for me to share here. Pakistan as well as the rest of the world is probably the same. We all are still trying our best to do that. But the latest chapter, there's 2. One is that we find out that people are getting smarter in using AI to beat the system that we put in. And right now, it is trying to get the next generation of system to actually overcome that. So that is the current work that's happening right now. We can talk about it later in the personal space. Number 2 is build, is probably a bit more. It is about helping, moving the skill of the organization. You can do it through company, a collection of companies, or as a country. My suggestion is you do all 3 together. We have Singapore, you have something called the Skills Future, right? That's about lifelong learning for their people. In Malaysia, up north, it's the same. We call it Future Skills. In Japan, it's called Industry 5.0, 1.0 more than right now. All of them are very much in the how to transition the functional space. But it's not only that, leadership as well. BCG this year has revamped their leadership program in Asia to be more agile, to be more adaptive to these digital changes. Okay? Borrow is about contingent workforce that actually works together with a permanent workforce. And it's about the freelancers, the gig economies, right? Alibaba and Grab are good examples from the East. They're using a lot of that. The newest one is that they're actually doing cross-border. The freelancers are able to do that in their newest operation. Bridge is basically a collection of activities or job, right, that's making it transparent for people to take. For example, you're in HR, I want to do sales. So I'm still doing my HR job, but I do 20% of sales, right? So this is the bridge that's happening right now. There are software called Rejig that enables that, but you do not need a software. About 5 years ago, we just put papers and pens, and we get people to actually write out jobs that they are not able to do, and then we publish it and link people up. Okay? OCBC Singapore has did a refresh on their talent this year to include this. They call it gig. You can actually doing some other job, but you are interested in something else. It could be a multi-generational aspiration. For example, they want to do something else while they're doing a current job. Okay, and last one is bot. It's robot, right? So things like Accenture and Mujin in Japan, having a collaboration called the Accenture Alpha Academy, where they bring automation to the masses in Japan. And also chat site AI, where as a software you can actually key in and actually manage the operations from the production floor. So those are all very exciting. But in many ways, whatever strategy that we choose, whether it's about automation or AI, in my view, it connects to the purpose. Because when your purpose is clear, it connects to the purpose of the organization. As leaders then, as HR leaders, the question then is, you may ask every day is, my decisions, is it making the good better? Yeah. So as I summarize the conversation today, and thank you for inviting me, I do have 3 observations about human nature that maybe I see in the East Side, and it may be happening here right now. So the first, the biggest challenge on human is actually, in my view, loneliness. The biggest gap is the gap between knowing and doing. The hardest thing to teach nowadays is teaching people to collaborate and working as a team. So we see that in terms of human nature, there are shifts. We see that there are also incoming challenges. And I personally strongly believe that the next level of leadership is about, first, really comfortable about our humanity, logic as well as emotion. Number 2, really thinking about your own clarity of purpose, because it will help you when the waves comes. That's the anchor for us. And number 3, it is about how do we navigate change for people, helping others to understand what change is. So thank you all for your time. As you find your voice, inspire others to find theirs. Thank you. Back to you.